All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this village board meeting to order on Monday, March 1st, 2021. We're meeting virtually again this evening because it is not yet practical or prudent to meet in person. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask you all to please rise and join the village board in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to
to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty and
justice
justice for all.
Would the clerk please call a roll?
Trustee Canty,
Here.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Here.
Trustee Scaletta,
Here.
Trustee Baldino,
Here.
Trustee LaBedz,
Here.
Trustee Padovani,
Here.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Here.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Here.
President Hayes.
Here. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and we have three sets to approve tonight. The first is from the village board meeting of February 1st, 2021. Any changes or passes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Padovani, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Next are the minutes from the committee of the whole meeting from February 15, 2021. Any changes or passes? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Baldino, seconded by Trustee Schwingbeck. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. And finally, the village board meeting minutes from that same evening, February 15, 2021. Any changes or passes? Trustee Canty,
Move approval.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Trustee Canty, seconded by Trustee Rosenberg. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Next is the approval of the accounts payable, and I call on Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I'd move approval of the warrant register with a check date of February 28th, 2021 in the amount of $1,460,129.46.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Rosenberg, seconded by Trustee Baldino. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. There are no recognitions or presentations tonight, so we'll move on to citizens to be heard. Ms. Hume, were there any comments submitted in advance of the meeting today?
No, there were not, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Becky. So we move on then to the audience, and you're just reminded, citizens to be heard are for members of the public to address the board on items not on the agenda, and you are limited to 3 minutes, but we do welcome your comments and questions. So the first individual is Keith Moons. Keith?
Thank you, President Hayes. say I have just a couple questions or requests tonight. The village commissions right now, I understand, are returning questionnaires right now about whether to continue virtual or in-person meetings going forward. Have you polled the public's opinion on whether to continue virtual or in-person meetings going forward? In my opinion, continuing to provide some kind of remote or virtual access, for public participation during live meetings, I think really would, boost public input. The other thing kind of related to that is that I've noticed or, seen that many presiding officers of like commissions and boards at Village Hall there have a really difficult time trying to follow some type of proper meeting procedure. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not saying anyone in particular. I just don't think anyone has ever shown them how to properly run an efficient meeting. And as a result, sometimes these meetings can last for hours and hours, and it's unnecessary. That I think if they were following the rules, it would not be that long and excruciating sometimes. So I think in an effort to encourage like more efficient, fair, small d democratic meetings after the upcoming election, are you still, considering to provide some training for board members and presiding officers in how to follow proper rules in order to conduct meetings? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your questions. Let me take the last one, and then I'll turn the other one over to Mr. Recklaus. I don't think the length of any meetings, either village board meetings or any of our boards and commission meetings, are extended in any way as a result of Robert's Rules of Order or parliamentary procedure. And so, no, I am not intending to have any formal training for either the village board, myself, or the boards and commissions. I think they are highly professional people, and they receive all the guidance they need from our staff liaisons. So, Mr. Recklaus, if you would address the issue of returning to meetings in person and where we stand on that.
Sure. It's part of our research and analysis on when we talking to the board about when we want to return to in-person meetings. We are doing we're having staff liaisons do some informal polling of commissions, and that's part of the information that'll be collected and provided to the village board as part of that discussion, which should be going out to the board hopefully in the next week or so as we collect that information. As we know, we've been assessing this on and off since we've been gone virtual, and given the recent improvement in our situation relative to COVID, we think it's an appropriate time to discuss it again and gauge everybody who is a participant in our meetings, their comfort level in it. That's all I really have to say about that at this point.
All right, thanks, Randy. And I can assure Mr. Moons and all members of the public that your right to participate will be provided in one form or another. And so we'll make sure that we're meeting all practical and legal requirements to make sure that the public has all opportunities to provide input. Any other members of the public wish to address the board on items not on the agenda under citizens to be heard? Seeing none, we'll move back to the formal agenda, and we do have a couple of items under old business. The first is a report of the Committee of the Whole meeting from February 22, 2021. We had a very important meeting in the history of Arlington Heights last Monday when we had a report from our DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Consultant, the Kaleidoscope Group. And we heard the results of their many months of work and a number of different recommendations. And we are certainly exploring those recommendations in the weeks and months ahead. But the one recommendation that we did approve last week was to pass unanimously a position statement for the Village of Arlington Heights. And before I call on the motion maker, I would like the village manager just to formally read that into the record for our public.
Thank you, Mayor. The position statement on diversity, equity, and inclusion for the Village of Arlington Heights reads as follows. The Village of Arlington Heights supports a welcoming environment for all by fostering an inclusive workforce, providing fair and equitable access to and delivery of all government services to all community members of Arlington Heights, and developing opportunities for employees and community members to reach their full human potential to the greatest appreciable extent. Embracing diversity in Arlington Heights is recognized as leveraging the differences and similarities of all people, respecting those differences, and valuing an inclusive environment to live, work, and visit. Diversity in Arlington Heights means respecting and welcoming all individuals with diverse backgrounds, experiences, perspectives, and cultures to include, but not limited to, each individual's culture, nation of origin, race, religion, ethnicity, age, gender, sexual orientation, and gender identity and ability. This commitment to diversity is the foundation for building and maintaining a high-quality workforce, government operations, and community inclusion in these processes. Diversity and inclusion are core values and strategic imperatives that build and support the strength of the Village of Arlington Heights as a community and government. All members of the village, including employees, leadership, and community members, have responsibilities to work collaboratively with one another to foster an environment where all employees and members of the community who engage with government feel included, valued, and respected. The Village of Arlington Heights' diversity initiatives are applicable but not limited to policies and strategies on government operations, employee recruitment and selection, compensation and benefits, and professional development and training. These practices are the benchmark of doing the work of government in Arlington Heights and encourage fair and equitable practices in support of respectful communication, collaboration, teamwork, achieving work-life balance, and continual efforts that promote greater understanding and respect for each other and the community we serve.
All right, thank you, Mr. Recklaus. With that, I would go to the motion maker, Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move now, as I did then, that the Committee of the Whole recommend that the Village Board of Trustees adopt the draft diversity, equity, and inclusion statement at the next Village Board meeting.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, second by Trustee Schwingbeck. Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, we do have one hand raised from the audience. And Sam, I believe that you would like to address the board on this agenda item. So if you just give us your last name as well, please.
It's Pappas. Thank you.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I've been a village in a resident since '95. I've been here for over 25 years, and I really appreciate the work that the village has done. And again, I want to actually say good evening, President Hayes and trustees, and thanks for taking my my comment. And I do support inclusion, and I am in favor of the village's inclusion statement. I think it's an excellent statement. It's a challenge, I believe, to address, hiring and promotion policies in state and local government. And I think one answer that I think may be a good answer for some of these issues is to move to a more objective hiring policy versus using subjective criteria. And what I mean by that is looking at an individual's, looking at the entire system as a merit-based system, looking at an individual's employment, history, skills, background, educational achievements, and generally, their qualifications for the position. But I think the challenge is in trying to avoid subjectivism, where a person's personal beliefs are interjected into the hiring and promotion process. And there is a way to get around that, I think, where you created an anonymous merit-based system where there could be an intermediary, for example, that gets an individual's personal identifiable information, their age, their national origin, their race, and that's redacted from the employment application, so that when the village gets an application, they look at applicant 1, applicant 2, applicant 3, and they judge a person based on that skill set and their employment history, et cetera. And if you want to interview that individual, you can do so perhaps over the phone or through some type of discrete process. And then when the best applicant is disclosed, you're selected, then you can disclose his identity or her identity. So I think that's the most objective system. You move towards objectivity, and I don't think anyone can really object to that. Putting race, national origin, and other similar features into the equation, saying you have to fill a quota, you have to do a set aside, your village makeup has to look like your, the demographics. I think it doesn't have to. I think you have to have the most qualified person, regardless of who it is. The more objective the mechanism, the better it is. To defeat discrimination, you have to give all applicants fair and objective playing field, a level playing field. And I think to do that, you have to move to a more objective standard rather than saying, we need more, younger people or people of a certain background to fit this position because, we don't have any. And I think that's wrong. And it's not just, fighting racial discrimination, but I think that type of system would prevent nepotism, favoritism, ageism. We hear about this in the news every day, an alderman who hired his relative or friends and relatives and had played favorites with his buddies, in hiring. So, for what it's worth, I just think moving towards that system and getting away from, gender or like race-based methodology is really the way to go. It benefits everybody. And even Martin Luther King said it, for Black History Month, he said, "I look forward confidently," and this is his quote, "to the day when all who work for a living will be one, with no thought to their separateness as Negroes, Jews, Italians, or any other distinctions. This will be the day when we bring into full realization the American dream, a dream yet unfulfilled." So even his position was to move towards an objective standard and not look towards the color of their skin or, their ethnic background or
Right,
whether they're young or old.
Mr. Pappas, can I ask you to wrap up?
Sure. And I think that's pretty much it. So I think, getting to a more objective standard would really, I think, help the process, with not just state and local government, but perhaps at the federal level as well. So
Okay,
that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Just in response, we did spend a great deal of time last Monday talking about this very issue. And as was recommended in the report, and as we discussed last Monday, the village will not be going to any kind of quota filling system as a result of this effort, the DEI effort. Our objective, as it always has been, is to hire the most qualified individuals, but to try to cast a much wider net to make sure that we're attracting individuals who meet these qualifications. And so we are definitely not going to be establishing any quotas as a result of this effort. And just wanted to make sure that you understand that going forward. Mr. Recklos, do you have anything else to add in terms of our hiring practices here in the village?
No, not at this time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no other audience comments, then we do have a motion and a second. Anything further from the board? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. All right, we have one other item on the old business agenda, and that is the interview of Michelle Petrie for appointment to the Arlington Economic Alliance. And so I would call on Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I move now, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Ms. Michelle Petrie for appointment to the Arlington Economic Alliance Downtown Business Representative for the term ending April 30th, 2022.
Was there a second? Who seconded the motion?
I'll second it.
All right. Trustee LaBedz made the motion, seconded by Trustee Scaletta. Any further questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Well, Michelle, if you could make yourself visible, and we'll go ahead and administer the oath.
Can you hear me?
We gotcha.
I don't know how to make myself visible. I'm trying. Sorry.
Yeah, I think
Can
you might be in the other room, but we can go ahead and administer the oath. We'll take your word for it that you're raising your right hand. How about that?
I am, I promise.
All right. All right. If you would raise your right hand and repeat after me, I, and state your full name,
I, Michelle Petrie,
having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
in the village of Arlington Heights,
in the village of Arlington Heights,
in the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my ability.
Well, congratulations, Michelle. We know you will. Well, you have a couple other things you have to do to make it official. One is to sign your oath that you just took with our village clerk at some point in the not too distant future. And then also we will make sure that you get a village logo pin to wear as a proud representative of this village board and of this community as a member of one of our appointed boards and commissions. And so welcome. Thank you again for your willingness to serve. We look forward to all the great input that you're going to provide to the Arlington Economic Alliance. So welcome again and congratulations.
Thank you.
And let me just, before we move off of this agenda item, we do have a number of terms ending for our boards and commission members on April 30th. And so there will be some opportunities for other village residents to step up and serve on one of our appointed boards and commissions. And so we encourage you to look for opportunities and vacancies on our village website and to look what might interest you in terms of the opportunities. And so please contact me, any member of the village board, or our manager or mayor's office to submit an application if you're interested in one of our boards and commissions. So thank you all. We move on then in the agenda to the consent agenda. Are there any members of the board who wish to remove or remove an item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, any members of the audience wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Any members of the board wish to vote no or pass on any item on the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Trustee
Second.
Tinaglia moved approval, seconded by Trustee Canty. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Moving on then to new business, we do have 3 items to consider, and they're all brought forth by village staff. So I would call on our village manager, Mr. Recklaus.
I'm going to pass things on to Charles Perkins, our Director of Planning and Community Development, for this first one.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and board members. The first item is a proposed amendment to the village's comprehensive plan as it relates to approximately 18 acres at the corner of Gulf Road and Arlington Heights Road. This is part of the village's tax increment financing district number 4. A couple of years ago in 2018, the village retained a consultant, Ehlers and Associates, and a market research firm to conduct a market assessment of this area. Their conclusion was at that time that the existing 164 square foot shopping center was too large for the market, and that the village should consider mixed use type development in this area that's a little more flexible in attracting developers to this particular area. We have since then been working with Ryan companies that had their property under contract for a smaller portion of the TIF 4 area. They placed their project on hold a little bit as they reevaluated, and we're in discussions with them on an expanded concept. But what's before you is to simply change the land use plan on the comprehensive plan from strictly commercial to mixed use, and mixed use would allow a variety of uses: senior housing, rental apartments, medical offices, restaurants, and retail. So this would provide more flexibility in attracting and working with developers on the TIF 4 redevelopment area. So the Plan Commission held a public hearing and recommended approval with a vote of 9 in favor and 0 against. And that's the recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Charles on this item? Seeing none on that, any questions from the audience? All right, Mr. Moons.
Yeah, excuse me, Mr. Perkins, did you say that Ryan Properties at Senior Living is withdrew their application, or what was, could you say it again? I'm sorry.
I said they had submitted a Plan Commission application and gone to some of the preliminary reviews by the Consolidated Conceptual Plan Review Committee. I didn't say they'd withdrawn it. I said they had kind of placed it on hold as they evaluated the marketplace, and we're in continued discussions with them on a larger concept than what they originally had presented.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? RG, go ahead. And give us your full name, RG. You're going to have to take yourself off mute.
There you go. My name is Anairos Karafotias. I own the restaurant across the street, Golden Branch, and I just want to say a big thank you to the village, because I know the staff has been working the last probably 15, 20 years with the plaza, and I just want to say a big thank you to all of you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Seeing none. Mr. Passman, let me just ask you a question as village attorney. Do we need to concur with the Plan Commission recommendations on these, or can we just wait until the ordinance under legal to approve these?
You need not take a vote at this time if you choose not to, Mayor. It's the vote on the ordinance that ultimately has the legal effect.
Right, okay. Let's move on then to the next item, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. This next item is very similar to the one we just spoke about, except this is an amendment to the TIF 4 redevelopment plan to reflect the same change, changing the 18 acres from commercial to mixed use in order to be compliant with the TIF statute. The redevelopment plan has to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So this went through a lengthier process as required by state statute. And the village in early January held a joint review board meeting with the various taxing districts in this area. Those taxing districts voted 6-0 in favor of recommending approval of this change. And then the Plan Commission, sitting as the Redevelopment Commission, held a hearing in early February and also recommended 7-0 to recommend changing the redevelopment plan from commercial to mixed use.
Thanks, Charles. Any questions on this item? Seeing none from the village board, any questions from the audience? Seeing none, okay, same thing. We'll wait for the ordinance to approve these or to vote on these. And next, moving on to Greenbrier. Mr.
I can
Reckles?
take that one. So if you recall, at the last board meeting, the village board approved a number of improvements for the Greenbrier Roanoke neighborhood, including some stormwater improvements at where Happiness Park is currently located. The village recently acquired that property from the Park District, and in order for us to do the improvements that were contemplated in that review, we are going to have to rezone that property from R3 to public land, and also amend the comprehensive plan to classify the site as open space. There's one variation required to waive the requirement to provide a traffic study and parking study. Given the change, we thought that that was prudent, and staff is recommending that change as well. Like the items, the TIF items, the ordinance itself is the only formal action that needs to be taken tonight to facilitate those changes.
Okay, thanks, Randy. Questions from the board? Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe this is for either Mr. Shirley or Mr. Paperniak. There was a number of comments made at the Plan Commission meeting about odors coming from the detention area that exists today. And I was just wondering, I wasn't quite sure what the resolution of that was or will be when we complete our work here.
I'll take that question. Trustee Rosenberg, the removal of the sedimentation in the existing basin, which has not been done for at least a couple of decades, should address the odor issues. And if it doesn't, we've talked about the option of possibly including some kind of aeration or bubbler system to get some more oxygen into that pond. So we would propose at this time, installing an aerator or a bubbler is not part of the contract. We just want to see if we can clean it up by taking the sediment out. It'll provide some depth, a little deeper water. We're going to install a safety shelf and some natural vegetation around it that's low maintenance, and it should address the odor issue. If it does not, we will look at other options for aeration or bubblers.
So, I mean, since it's detention, then most of the time it probably won't even have any water in it, correct?
Well, no, we're talking about the actual existing basin. So the existing basin is going to be dewatered, Trustee,
Okay.
and we're going to get in there and hog out the sediment that's been in there for a few decades. And then the actual improvements to the south are in that vacant lot, so to speak, and that's just going to be dishing that out and creating like an overflow area so that when water rises in the basin, it can flow into that new area, and then it'll flow out quickly after the intensity of the storm is diminished.
So they spray some Febreze down and take care of everything?
No, it's not Febreze, but
All right. Thank you very much.
initially, yep.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. Mr. Shirley, there's one part that I was still a little confused about, and that had to do with fencing. Was the fencing to be around the original detention area, or is there going to be fencing in the newer area?
No, we're only proposing fencing where it exists now, but it'll be a new fence. And then we'll put gates in so that we can maintain the pond, it's really kind of inaccessible right now because of all the volunteer growth and scrub brush that's grown up around it. So that's kind of prevented or hampered any maintenance in the past. So a new fence, vinyl coated, we'll have gates for access in there for maintenance, but it'll be basically in the same location it is now.
Okay, thank you. I did take a look at the property yesterday, and you're right, it's pretty overgrown, and you sure couldn't see that there was a fence, and it wasn't exactly, it's too much ice and snow to walk around the area. So anyway, thank you for that response. I appreciate it.
Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Shirley, can you tell us the methods that the village used to communicate with the residents in that area that this is coming about?
Well, we sent out at least 2 letters in advance of, first of all, the survey crews that were going out there for design. And we sent another letter out when the contractors were going to be out looking at the area for improvements and putting together their bids. And then we just sent one out February 22nd or 23rd, telling everybody about a neighborhood meeting that we're hosting virtually this coming Wednesday at 6:30 or 7 p.m. I think it's 7 p.m. So there's been at least 3 contacts out there, and now we have an email list. So we also email blasted all those folks about the virtual neighborhood meeting this coming Wednesday. And so we hope that it's gotten everybody. We've had a few people that the email blast got caught up in their spam filters. So if people are out there and you think you're in that area and you're on the email list, you probably are. You need to check your junk or spam folder on your computer. But otherwise, we sent out hard copies in the area. Some people say they haven't gotten them. They are just addressed resident and then the address. So I don't know why some people haven't gotten them. I don't know if that's a postal service issue or something else.
And Charles, I'm going to ask you this question because I think it would go to you. So this was reviewed by Plan Commission?
Yes, that's correct. For the rezoning and the preliminary plat of subdivision.
And did the village put up a sign on the property for that meeting?
Yes, the sign was posted on the property, the legal notice in the newspaper, which probably nobody read. And then the letters went out to all the property owners within 250 feet of the property.
Okay. Well, I would imagine that, this, improvement in the area is going to be covered by the press. And so I just want to make sure that when people are reading this, that hopefully the press will also mention the fact that, there were, several different attempts made to make sure that we communicate with the residents. I mean, it's very difficult. This process needs to happen now because we're going to be getting into the warmer months when some of this work will be, we'll start moving forward on some of this work. But I want to make sure that everyone realizes that, the village is making every attempt to communicate with the residents in that neighborhood. Because we saw it in the past, even when the village was communicating in the neighborhood I live in for Cypress, where just sometimes people either, didn't get their mail or didn't receive something that we want to make sure that we're communicating with everybody. And so all these efforts that the village has made, especially staff, are appreciated by me and I'm sure the rest of my colleagues. So thank you. I have no other questions.
Thanks, Trustee Scaletta. Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience on this agenda item? Seeing none, we will vote on that under legal. And so there is no other new business items, so we will move on then to legal. And we do have 4 ordinances to consider tonight. And who would like to take the first ordinance? Legal A. Trustee Scaletta.
So I am going to move that the village board approve the ordinance amending the comprehensive plan future land use map of the village of Arlington Heights.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta. Was it Trustee Schwingbeck with the second? Yes. Any further questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Roll call.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Who'd like to take item B? Trustee Padovani.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move now that the village board approve an ordinance approving an amendment to the tax increment redevelopment plan and project for the Arlington Heights / Gulf Road redevelopment project area.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Padovani, second by Trustee Canty. Any further questions or comments from the board or the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. And then legal C, trustee Baldino.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move to approve an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan, changing the land use designation for the property located at the northeast corner of Cambridge Street and Yale Avenue to an open space use.
Second.
Motion by trustee Baldino, second by trustee LaBedz. Any questions or comments from the board or the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. And finally, legal D, trustee LaBedz.
Thank you. I would move approval of an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance, granting approval of a planned unit development, a preliminary plat of re-subdivision, vacation of a portion of North Yale Avenue, and variation from Chapter 28 of the Municipal Code for Greenbrier Detention Basin.
Second.
Motion by trustee LaBedz, seconded by trustee Canty. Any questions or comments from the board or the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. We move on then to the report of the village manager. Mr. Recklouse, anything other than your request for the closed session?
I did have one thing this evening, Mayor, if I could. Tonight, when the board approved the consent agenda, you may have noticed, we bought 5 new police vehicles tonight, 4 of which are hybrids. The last one we couldn't get as a hybrid because it's a K9 unit and it requires specialized air conditioning. This Friday, Mayor Hayes and I also attended a session put on by our fleet services foreman, who gave a presentation to representatives or 2 state representatives and one of our state senators staff about how our fleet is now, out of our 137 diesel vehicles, all of them are now running on biodiesel, and not just any biodiesel, but B20, which is much higher than the state standards. We're one of only 7 municipalities in the entire state that are using B20. So between our shift now over the last couple of years towards hybrids in our police department and the use of the highest type of biodiesel for our diesel fleet, we really have one of the greenest fleets in our area for public works. I just wanted to highlight that, and that that shift is occurring, and it's something that we're proud of.
Indeed, Randy, thank you for bringing that up, and congratulations to our Public Works Department and our village staff and our village board for their commitment to green energy. And so we very much appreciate that reminder that we are a leader in that regard. So thanks, Randy. Anything else, Randy, besides the request for closed session?
That's it.
Okay. Anything from the board under petitions and communications? Seeing none. Randy, back to you.
I would request that we enter into closed session for 5 ILCS 120/2C21, discussion of minutes lawfully closed, whether for the purposes of approval of the minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes, and 5 ILCS 120/2C11, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the village has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the board finds that an action is probable or imminent.
Do we have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to those?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Padovani, seconded by trustee Scaletta. Roll call.
Trustee Padovani,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes, well, we are adjourned into closed session and will not be reporting back out. So we have a early evening for all of you who joined us, and please enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you all for joining us this evening.
Good night.
Right.
Right.